Hey Steve, how's it going?
Pretty good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, I got this crazy iMac prototype that probably hasn't been turned on in over 25 years or something. You want to come over here and help me fix it?
I'll be right there.
Fantastic! Hey guys, how are you all doing? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Krazy Ken, and this is my buddy Steve. Steve, it took you so long to get here. Like, what the?
Traffic was bad, I'm sorry.
Traffic under this desk is always a nightmare. So, we have this really rare iMac G3 prototype here with us. On the motherboard, or excuse me, logic board, there was a header for a floppy disk drive.
Yeah.
This computer, when it went to retail, did not have a floppy disk drive. In fact, this prototype doesn't have one either. And there was also an ADB Apple desktop bus port, like, hiding back here somewhere. It's like
Behind the plastic.
they moved to USB and everything on the actual retail model. They ditched ADB, but this prototype had that port on there. But yeah, it was behind the plastic. You couldn't plug into it very easily anyway. But now we're gonna try to get it working. And by we're, I kind of mean mostly him because he's much smarter. So it does not turn on. But Steve, you have some ideas, so let me know. What do you think you can try here to get it working?
Yeah, so, I mean, these iMacs, unfortunately, have known issues with both the analog board, which powers the CRT, and the power supply, which powers the computer.
Right.
So, unfortunately, due to the age of these machines, and that they really didn't have too much airflow in them, a lot of them die, even the retail ones. So, since you have a retail iMac that is of the same generation, we would take the logic board out of this prototype, put it into the retail one, and see if we get any life out of it.
Right, so full disclosure, guys, like, this is Krazy Ken's Tech Misadventures. Things go wrong, not everything always works. Like, we may do some process of elimination and some diagnosing, but this may be a multi-parter, you know? It may not work by the end of this episode, but it's still gonna be a lot of fun. Glad you're here, Steve, and I'm glad you guys are here. Get ready to suffer. All right, Steve, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do this.
Does this mean I have to get back under the table?
Wow, Steve, this is kind of a weird predicament. I feel like I'm drowning in plastic here. So this is the retail model of the iMac. You can see it's more kind of frosted looking. This one's the prototype, more clear and glossy, doesn't have the EMI shielding in it and stuff. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is Steve's gonna put the prototype board into the retail iMac.
And we're gonna guide it carefully, making sure that none of the innards are flopping about. Now, there are a bunch of cables on the left and right side here.
And while we were prepping this, we were poking around a little bit, and we did notice there was a new pram battery on the proto board. We also noticed there were some tester LEDs on the proto board. They're marked on the actual retail board, but there's just pads there. There's no actual LEDs. And also there was a soft power button, which we may try if we need to.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the minute differences along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna plug all these cables back in. We have the infrared cable, and we should be ready to test this.
What's coming up next? What are you gonna do?
Well, I'm gonna plug this thing in, see if we get any signs of life out of it. We're gonna push the buttons and hope for the best.
Maybe we should check that. Is the cord plugged into the outlet?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay, good.
And the power strip is on, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Take it away.
All right, let's plug her in. I heard something.
Oh, wait. Okay.
For a second. All right, let's try the front. Ah, nothing. Let's try it again. Let's try the keyboard button. Let's try our soft power friend. Nothing.
Ooh, so does that mean the board?
Well, there was a bit of a rough connection between the CPU and the socket there. So there could be something slightly misaligned, but I think we could just keep reseating it and see if anything changes, and we'll go from there. So the processor card plugs into these two slots here, and one of them has some broken off plastic. And so because of that, these pins are just sort of hanging around here. So what I'm gonna do is try and just nudge them. So the processor card has these two little notches on it, and that goes into this little cage. All right, so that is seated. I'm gonna borrow the clip from your retail machine just to hold down this heatsink in place a little bit. And we'll try this again.
And Steve just taught me that freaking clip works as like a hook to take the memory out, right?
Yeah, so if you take this clip out, essentially, the service manual indicates that if you use this little hook, you could pry this little processor card up because it can get stuck in there a little bit rough, so you want to make sure that you could loosen that properly without damaging anything.
Right. All right, so the processor card is reseated.
Yep.
And we'll just cross every body part.
There we go. So we're going to try the power button on the front first. Nothing. Keyboard. Nothing. All right, and then soft power. Nothing.
Do we want to try the ADB keyboard just for grins and giggles?
Yeah, I mean, technically the soft power button should do that.
Yeah, I
but-
suppose.
And there's unfortunately there's not too much room. So I'd like to test your retail board
Okay.
in the retail shell just to make sure that nothing crazy went on when it was off for a while.
This retail model now has the retail board back in it just to make sure it works and there's no other weird things with the analog board or the flux capacitor.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the light's still orange.
So there's no PRAM battery in it. It might be unhappy. What we could do is just take the board out again, do some magic, try and make it happy, and see again. At least we're getting the power on of the CRT, so that tells us that the analog board and the power supply are working.
Do you want to put this battery in there, maybe? Just
Yeah,
for
sure.
grins and giggles? Okay. Well, here's something I never thought I'd see. An ADB keyboard connected to an iMac, which the whole idea was to ditch those types of I.O., but here we are with the prototype board and an ADB port. So we're going to try the power button on the keyboard to see if we can get it to turn on that way. But we also did test a few other things. Steve?
Yeah, so essentially what had happened, what we figured out with the retail board is the processor card wasn't seated correctly. So once we reseated that, the machine booted up fine and it was happy. So we thought, okay, great. Now we know the analog board, the power supply board, and the CRT and everything is happy. However, we want to, of course, test the prototype board. So we're putting the prototype board back in, and although this soft power button is electronically connected to the ADB port, we thought it doesn't hurt to try and plug in a keyboard
Right.
just to test it out.
So the prototype board is in, but we have the card here. We're taking this out just in case if it's causing any issues.
We just got to plug the power in.
Plug the power in and I'll push the button.
All right.
Push the button, Frank.
Here we go.
Here we go. And...
Let's try this guy again. I'm hearing like a buildup of something, like almost like
I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, 'cause if I unplug this,
Oh, I heard it.
see it goes away.
Yeah.
So there's some electricity buildup. There might be something on the board that has bridged, or something that a pin is touching and it's just not happy, and that's causing it not to start up. So let's take the tray out. So I want to take it out and just see if there's anything loose underneath, anything burned, anything broken that we could easily see.
Before that, just your hypothesis. Do you think at this point the analog board in the prototype is a culprit at all, or do you think it's something with the motherboard?
Well, since the motherboard is preventing this computer from doing anything, I
Right.
would say we don't really have too much to go on saying that the analog board and the power
Yeah, I
supply
guess,
in the older one were faulty. Now, we could test that by putting in your now known good working logic board in that machine
Into the prototype one.
into the prototype chassis just to see if the screen works and everything else.
Okay, so
Plug it in.
you open up the butter packet. You ever see that skit, the popcorn popper? Alright, anyway. Do you want to try any of the buttons on the other side?
Oh, that's right. This one has the...
Oh, it's missing,
Yeah, so
so
try that one.
just in case it bursts into flames.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I got nothing here.
Got nothing. Probe that power button. You needed a pen to do it.
I do have a paintbrush that I used in the last episode. Let me know when you're ready for power here.
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
If I could. You have to put the USB cord in 3 times. before
Yeah,
you-
I know. You're spinning around.
And it's harder when you're not looking at the port.
Oh, yeah.
Try again. Now, it's very possible that, unfortunately, something could have shorted out, and it could have damaged both of these boards and the logic board. We're not sure.
Could have, yeah. We have low hopes about this idea, but just for grins and giggles, we're leaving it plugged in for a bit before we turn the power on. I've had luck with that with like much older Macs. Sometimes when
Yeah.
the caps are crappy, you just gotta leave it plugged in for a while. So let's see if it does anything. Nope, nothing here.
Try one more time.
One more
Just use
time.
over here.
Sure.
No.
Okay. Worth a shot.
I mean, we do see some stuff on this side of the board, and unfortunately, we can't really take this shell off to take a look at it.
Not practically.
No, yeah.
The clips and stuff on here are a pain in the butt. Maybe we could find some other solution later from some other whiz that has a magical tool.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken the back off of one of these with some very soft plastic automotive tools and basically destroyed the tools in the process, and I still, broke a clip or two, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, this part of this whole experiment is also like, how much are we willing to potentially accidentally break of the prototype, and how much are we willing to replace part-wise? Because then it's not 100% prototype anymore. So there's got to be a line we got to draw somewhere before we do too much. But
so it could very well be that there are capacitor issues, both either on the analog board or the power supply board, one or the other.
If this analog board was bad, but the power board was good, the CRT wouldn't work, but would we still at least get a fan or something?
So you might be able to get the machine to turn on, and actually the DB15 port, which is where you plug the video circuitry into on the tray loading iMacs like these, you could actually plug
in our own LCD
the machine and power an LCD or a CRT to it.
True.
And you'd actually see the image on there. So I've done that before, where the CRT is bad or the flyback is bad or there's something wrong on the analog side of the system.
Yeah. So do you think, because we're not even getting signs of life at all, that likely the main culprit is something on the power board?
That's what I would assume, yeah, because you're not hearing anything, you're not getting any power. Now, what we can do is we could poke around with the multimeter on, let's say, some of the ports on the logic board to see if there's any voltage coming across. However, this is a soft power system, so, it depends on how the board is manufactured and how the circuits are there if you're going to get anything, but we could try that out.
Okie doke. All right, so small change of plans. We did a little switcheroo.
Yeah, so we were trying it with a questionable power supply / analog board, trying to probe things. We figured out, that's not really going to tell us anything. So we have a confirmed working power supply and analog board and monitor. I'm going to switch this to continuity mode. And what this will help us do is just poke around on the board. I know where some things are supposed to go. And when I make a connection, the multimeter will make a beep. And this tells us that something is connected to something else.
Right.
So this gives power to the hard drive. So the black cables here are ground. So if I plug the probe into that little socket there and I touch ground, it beeps, which means that's good. So let me do that again. Oop, that should not be doing that. So ground is connected to voltage here, and that is certainly a no-no.
It's shorting?
It is definitely shorting. Yeah, so I'm going to test this on this board here. Ground my multimeter here, and here's a ground here. So that's working good. Now the same thing, the hard drive connector is right here, and I'm going to just probe that here. Okay, so that's ground to ground. Okay, now this red connector carries voltage here. This should not be grounding, so let me probe this. Yeah, that is normal. We should not be getting any continuity between that red cable and the ground of the machine. So even if I put the probe right next to each other, this ground cable to here, we're not getting anything. However, on this board, if we do the same exact thing, we get a beep, which tells us something is shorting and connecting something that it should not be doing. I think the next step is to unscrew the logic board from this tray, flip it over, and just visually inspect it to see if we could find out what's going on here. All right, so we took the board out of the tray and flipped it over, and everything seemed to be okay. Out of curiosity, I started probing the board again and discovered that the short that we found earlier is no longer present. So if I probe the voltage rail here to the ground port here, it is no longer beeping, which means there's no longer a short.
So the issue is coming from outside the board, most likely.
So there's a piece that sits between the logic board and the power supply, and that's this here. You basically have the power cable plugging in here, and there are pins on the other side that plug in to the underside of the logic board here. So I want to see if there's something wrong on this part, or there's something bridged here that may be causing that short.
Yeah, I've never opened that up before, so have you?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Not on this one, but on others I have. So it should just be some straight headers and some caps, maybe some resistors, so we'll see.
So I figured I'd just update you while Steve is researching some other stuff. So in this housing, which, I've always seen this hump, but I never actually knew what was under it, apparently is the power filter board. But essentially this helps smooth out the electricity from the power board to the logic board to help prevent any damage from erratic behavior from those nasty electron thingies that always jump around inside a computer. Anyway, hey, I'm not a rocket surgeon. So this smooths out the power, and if there's something wrong in here, if something shot this to hell earlier, that means the power coming from the power board to the logic board is not being filtered properly, and that is what maybe is causing the short. We'll keep digging. Okay, guys, it has been several hours, I think. I have lost track of time since we last added an update to this transmission. Steve, what sort of things have you been testing? Nothing super big discovery, right? That we couldn't
Nothing too exciting, unfortunately.
It's a little tedious.
Yeah, so essentially where we last left off, we were playing around with the idea that maybe this power filter board was causing the problem.
Right.
But unfortunately, after testing them with the multimeter and probing them a lot, I don't necessarily think that that's the issue. We did read a tip in the service manual for this particular model that does say if you want to test to see if the board is getting power, test these specific points. So that's what we're going to do.
So now Steve is testing to see if the logic board is getting any power from the power supply. And again, we're going off of what the Apple service manual said to test, just to try to narrow it down so we're not probing the whole freaking thing like the aliens do to me every night. Hey, wait, I don't enjoy it anymore.
And we get 5 volts. Okay.
Okay.
So voltage is getting to the board, but for some reason, whether it be a bad chip, a bad capacitor, a bad connection somewhere, or a short, this machine is not powering on.
So the next thing we're going to try is the retail power filter board inside the retail case with the prototype board, because that's a particular combination I believe we haven't tried yet.
That's correct. We tried everything else.
We've been at this for hours. I'm losing track. So
What day is it?
50. So this is probably the last thing we're going to be able to do right now with our resources. Like, there's other tools and stuff we can use that we do not have access to right now. So, like I hinted at earlier, this is probably going to be a two-parter.
Oh, it's interesting to note that the power filter on the prototype has no metal shielding or protection at all.
Yes.
There's just some non-metal sticker on the bottom of this tray.
Yeah, that is, that's phenomenal. But hey, it's a prototype. We don't need to have it perfect yet.
No, it doesn't have to be safe. Oh, is this piece of metal slightly different in size?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Please don't. I do not have the brain cells for this tonight.
No, I think we got it.
Oh, Steve, don't toy with me like that.
All right, so with that retail power filter in here, we're just going to test the voltage, and then we're going to try and turn it on.
It's getting late, people. Gravity.
Just a little bit. A lot of things have been going wrong tonight, but...
Oh, that's to be expected. It's tech misadventures. Krazy can curse and all that.
All right, so we're still getting the same voltage, so at least that hasn't changed. I guess you can do the honors of pushing the power button, Ken.
Push the button, Frank.
Ah, poo.
Jeez. Oh my gosh.
Well, we did give it the old college try.
Holy crap. What could possibly be wrong still?
I'm guessing there's some minor component on the board or just something that has failed that on a component level we would have to do extensive further work to figure out what the heck is going on.
And we're talking like under a microscope.
Yeah.
Right?
For hours.
Yay!
Whoop-de-doo!
Laugh of madness. So, Steve, not everything always goes according to plan, but I think thanks to your efforts, we helped narrow down a lot of the problems, and now we know a lot of what the problem isn't.
Totally.
So that's good. So, for your valiant effort, I'm going to give you one authentic Computer Clan pop socket.
Gee. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, you are welcome. Where can the friendly folks find you?
Well, you could find me on YouTube. I'm there as Mac84. Feel free to subscribe. And you could also find me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is Mac84TV.
Absolutely. And another special thanks to everyone who helped us with this project, responding to text messages like at 2 in the morning. On top of that, we know there's other smart people out there. So if you have any suggestions about what maybe could have happened or like what we could try to fix it, feel free to leave a comment, and also check the description. We may have a link or something like a blog post where people can submit other information to.
Totally.
And feel free to subscribe for more tech episodes coming all the time. I love doing episodes about rare and retro tech, new tech, and of course, scam tech. And stay tuned because we will revisit this one day. And if you'd like to help support the Computer Clan, plus get some awesome perks along the way, feel free to pledge to my Patreon. Thanks in advance for your support. And if you like this episode, you know what to do. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. Catch the Krazy and pass it on.